Calgary Flames 9, Edmonton Oilers 6. Zach, let's get into the breakdown of what was a very chaotic, depressing, all over the place game one, round two.
Yeah, I mean, it's what a wild one. I don't think anybody would have expected that we would have been watching the ninth highest scoring playoff game in NHL history last night, especially the way you watched the Flames play in their first round matchup against the Dallas Stars. I didn't really expect this to be the game. But I think, obviously there was a terrible start. You're down 3-0, 6 minutes in. Mike Smith lets in 2 goals on his first 3 shots, lets in 3 goals on his first 5 shots. Absolutely unacceptable performance by him. And without dogpiling on him too much, he really set the tempo for the rest of the game for the team. 26 seconds into the game, Elias Lindholm rips one top shelf on what should be a routine glove save. And I mean, the rest of the game is the rest of the game. It's a dogfight from there. Obviously, it's disappointing to see another game one loss where the team came out flat, clearly let the emotions of the moment get the best of them. But the Oilers put up 6 goals yesterday. And I don't think that's anything that should be, slighted upon in any sense of the term. And, when you listen to the post-game press conferences last night, all you hear from the players is, well, we weren't good enough. We weren't good enough. Jay Woodcroft said, we put up 6 even strike goals. That needs to be enough to win a game. Absolutely it does. But at the end of the day, you put up 6 goals against Jacob Markstrom, who's a guy who is a Vezina candidate for this season, right? So I think despite the fact that you got, more or less blown out in one sense of the term, I still think there's some positives that the Oilers can take out of this game.
No, I agree with you. This is obviously when you put up 6 goals against a goalie like Jacob Markstrom, especially the fact that the Oilers at one point had 10, 12 shots and 3 goals. I mean, in that second period, I was looking at the shot clock. It was 28, 30 shots to 8. Now, that's a concern that the Oilers are not pouring enough shots on Jacob Markstrom. I think, a few more, maybe different game, obviously. But I think it's more so I think the Oilers need to figure out a way to kind of really control the game in their end. Mike Smith needs to be better. Mikko Koskinen, he kind of got thrown into that situation, hasn't played a lot of hockey in a few weeks, a month here. But going forward, just better start. What needs to happen for the Oilers going into game 2?
Yeah, I think what we've seen so far this playoffs is that if the Oilers don't have a good start, they're not going to have a good rest of the game. And that's something that they need to get out of their game right off the bat, because if they come out flat again in any one of these next, 6 games that remain, we know what's going to happen, right? So I think there needs to be an ability for this team to battle through some of that adversity early on in the games. But I mean, for the love of God, just come out strong in the first 5 minutes of the game.
If I'm being honest, sorry, Zach, it's please don't let in 2 goals in the first minute of the game. I was there at Rogers Place with their little watch party. I'm like, this is a nightmare start. It was a nightmare. This is the start of the Battle of Alberta, the first one in 31 years, and this is how it started. And come on, let's have a closer game here. And it ended up being a very close game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 6-6 at the beginning of the third period. It was really a toss-up, and I know the Flames aren't happy with the game that they played either. A quote from Daryl Sutter that just popped up on my timeline here. He said he's the best player in the league. He was the best player on the ice last night, and it wasn't even close. And Sutter said that if McDavid keeps scoring 4 points a night, the Flames are in obvious trouble. Well, good luck slowing down Connor McDavid anytime soon, because he's clearly on another level now. He's up to, what is it now, 18 points in 8 games in the playoffs. I mean, those are some pretty unbelievable numbers for him. And, the offense drives through McDavid, and, if he can stay hot and keep rolling, I mean, this team might be able to get out of this series.
Yeah, and then I just want to kind of mention, because we talk about how good McDavid has been and how many points he's putting up. But what were the rest of the teams? I feel like it was nice to see a few goals from Zach Hyman last night, but I just feel like there's a few other players that need to start contributing more offensively.
Yeah, I mean, Hyman was a great one to see have a bit of a breakout game. He really put the team on his back in the second period there. He took that awkward cross check from Blake Coleman, and then he came back out not long after and scored 2 goals that really propelled the Oilers back into this game. So, I thought he had a pretty good game, all things considering. Brett Kulak is maybe the star of the show for the Edmonton Oilers. He was +2 last night. I know plus minus isn't a very great stat to track these things, but at the end of the day, he wasn't on the ice for a goal against. He was on the ice for a couple of Oilers goals. So those are some positives that you can start to glean out of things at the end of the day. But when you lose 9-6 nobody has a good game, right? Nobody's got it. Nobody has a good game, and especially McDavid. Like even though he put up 4 points and put the team on his back, he had far from a great game either. And Leon Draisaitl, for that matter, he had a big turnover on the Matthew Tkachuk goal in the third period that put the game there, that gave Calgary a 2-goal lead and kind of put the game out of reach, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, there is still things to like. I like the way they battled back in the game. They fought through some adversity, but at the end of the day, they just weren't good enough.
A huge talking point during the game was Matthew Tkachuk getting out of the box a little bit earlier than Evander Kane or whatever it was, and there's a lot of concern. Can you kind of take us through that? What happened there?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a confusing situation, and I was pretty rattled by it. I had no idea what was going on. Basically, what ended up happening was there was, who was it now? It was Oliver Shillington who took the initial penalty. So he was penalized
I
for
think
holding
so.
Connor McDavid. And then a subsequent scrum had started between Evander Kane and Matthew Tkachuk. So while they were getting coincidental minors, Oliver Shillington was serving his penalty. And apparently the rule is that nobody knew about is that if you have two guys in the penalty box in a situation like that, that team can choose which player they want out of the penalty box first. So they were able to decide, hey, we want Matthew Tkachuk on the ice, and Tkachuk went out on the ice and he scored a goal while Shillington stayed in the box. I think it's a pretty dumb rule. I really do, because if you think about it, you have two separate incidents that lead to the penalties, right? The Shillington hold is separate from the incident between Kane and Tkachuk. So in my eyes, the logical thing is that Kane and Tkachuk serve out their minor penalties at the same time, while Shillington would be the first one out of the box. So, and I know there was also some talk about there being like an offside or something like that. There's another weird rule that I've seen popped up about that as well. All around, it was just kind of a weird situation, a weird scenario at the end of the day. And it was frustrating and it sucked because obviously you see that, you see
Yeah.
Kachuk came out and he was able to score, right?
And essentially that's when the game was a little bit out of reach at that point, which really sucked. One thing you want to mention was Jacob Markstrom's numbers against Edmonton, because I looked at your at the day after that you wrote oilersnation.com. Don't forget to check it out. Yeah, not great numbers from Jacob Markstrom against Edmonton, it seems.
No, he's historically struggled against the team. In his final year in Vancouver, he posted a 908 save percentage in the games against the Oilers, which is, about league average, a little bit below league average. Since he joined the Flames, however, it has not been great. Last year in the 9 games that the Oilers played against him, he posted an 884 save percentage, allowing 3.34 goals against average. And this year he posted an 884 again and a 3.54 goals against average. And last night he had a 786 save percentage. So obviously the Flames don't allow a high amount of shots against. That's kind of their style of play. But at the end of the day, the Oilers are finding a way consistently to beat Jacob Markstrom, and they can expose him in these playoffs. They really can. You look at a lot of the goals that the Oilers scored last night; they were ugly goals. I mean, they were goals that
Pretty easy,
Markstrom really
yeah.
should have saved. Like Hyman went high glove side twice. Draisaitl went high glove side as well. Maybe it was the fact that Markstrom was a little cold, not facing a ton of shots. But even still, the Oilers still had, like in the first period, the Oilers had 7 shots, 11 in the second and 10 in the third. That's still 28 shots
Yeah.
against in a game. I mean, that's pretty average, all things considering, for a team, maybe a bit below average, but at the end of the day, you saw enough rubber where, he should be saving more than a 786 shows, right? So at the end of the day, this is something where the Oilers can say, hey, you know what? If we can get to Markstrom early, if we can find a way to get some traffic in front of him, get some shots on net, get in his grill a little bit, play in the blue paint. I mean, that's a way you can throw a player off his game, especially a goaltender, let alone a goaltender like Jacob Markstrom, who's been ice cold against Edmonton for 2 seasons now. So, I still think there's a lot to be optimistic about in the series. I mean, my emotions are much different than they were after game 1 against LA. I felt I was kind of crushed after that game 1 in LA. The hype of
Fair
the
enough.
playoffs
Yeah.
and the Mike Smith goal against, and I thought the Oilers played a good game. And This series was, I'm trying to stay a little bit more level
Oh,
headed, a
same,
little
same
more
here.
even keel, because it's a long series after all,
That's what
right?
I was thinking. I'm gonna take this just game by game. I didn't even make a serious prediction on it, so I just think this series is gonna be very close. It can go either way. It's just, I guess the question I have for you now is, do we expect any of these black aces to make an appearance for the Oilers at all?
I don't know. It's really hard to say. I don't think we'll see any of them unless there's an injury. Philip Broberg's probably at the top of the list to draw into any game action. The Oilers also recalled Colton Sevier last night as well, so he was listed as a healthy scratch. Again, he could maybe draw in as like a fourth liner, maybe take over from Josh Archibald or something if the Oilers want a guy who's a little more defensive focused and is a strong defensive player in my eyes. Philip Broberg maybe draws in on the back end, but it's going to be difficult because of how physical this series is. Do the Oilers really want to throw a guy like Dylan Holloway to the Wolves in
Yeah.
this series? I mean, I see the value in playing him, and I'm not against it whatsoever. But I'm trying to think from an organizational standpoint. Is that something that they really feel comfortable with at this point? And I just don't know if I see them doing that.
I think Nyamalainen would maybe fit well.
Well, that's what I was thinking too, was
Yeah.
because you look at Nemo, he's a big, strong, physical defenseman, right? I mean, you look at what he did in his brief time in Edmonton earlier this season. I mean, at one point, he was leading the league in hits per hour by defensemen at even strength. I mean, he's a big physical guy, and he could very well fit what the Oilers sort of need at this point in time in the series. They got a little bit bullied last night. Nemo's a guy who could step in and he can lay the body.
No Stuart Skinner, you don't envision?
No, I
Uh,
don't. I mean, I think they go back to Smith, and it is what it is, right? But I don't really see them going down that deep down the well.
I was thinking like maybe Stuart Skinner comes in, turns into Ottinger 2.0 for the Flames, and just kind of the similarities there.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's possible for
Yeah.
sure. It's a great storyline. You look at the way Binnington did that a few years ago, and you look at even Benner the other night. He looked great against Colorado in Game
Mm-hmm.
1, right? So that's a game I'm actually going to be really interested in watching tonight. So
Any final words?
no, I mean, I think everybody just needs to kind of stay even keeled.
Yes.
It's a long series. It's one game. Yeah, it's 9-6. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, you're probably getting chirped pretty hard by all your buddies in Calgary who are Flames fans. But you know what? Markstrom, he let in 6 goals. McDavid had 4 points. Draisaitl had 3 points. Nugent Hopkins had a good 2-point night. There was good production from the Oilers, from some of their big guns. And at the end of the day, that's what you like to see. And again, it's a 7-game series.
Yeah, no, I agree. And let's just take it one game at a time. Just because you lose the first game does not mean the series is over. Even if you go down 2-0, doesn't mean the series is over. There's a lot of hockey to be played. I honestly think this is a series where, like I mentioned to Zach earlier a couple days ago, whoever wins the first away game, that's going to be the real defining moment of the series, right?
Absolutely. You're never worried until you lose on home ice.
Yes.
So, the Oilers haven't lost on home ice at this point. And you know what? Friday night, they could steal one in Calgary.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, thank you for everyone who watched, listened. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the Nation Network, and head to OilersNation.com for more in-depth analysis. And we'll see you after Game 2.